Warning, this podcast may cause introspection, celebration of the self, and the revelation of your Black Girl Magic superpowers. We firmly believe that Black women are not only magical, but we are as invaluable and powerful as vibranium. Our podcast is dedicated to empowering Black and brown women to embrace the transformative power of astrology and tarot. Through these intuitive arts, the Melanated Mystics will guide you to explore and connect with your deep inner magic and help you to finally release the burdens of Black Superwoman syndrome. It's time to redirect our energies inward and prioritize ourselves on this transformative journey of self-discovery. So, Carrie, well, first of all, everyone, hello, hi. We see y'all. We're happy to be back. Welcome back to another episode of the Melanated Mystics. Welcome to season 2. Welcome to a show that Carrie got this divine inspiration either it was yesterday or the day before for us to talk about something that's kind of heavy, but we want you to know that this is all of the energy behind this discussion. And the discussion is going to be on tarot and astrology and how we can use them as tools to help us work through, heal from, and integrate our trauma. We're going to be talking about some current events, so a little bit of trigger warning for those of us that have dealt with any kind of emotional, psychological, physical violence, whether in our childhood or in our adult lives. We're going to be talking about some of that, but in a way, again, that is loving and supportive with the ultimate message. And what we're going to try to get across is that we can use our tarot and astrology as these amazing, rich, practically free tools to help us integrate the work that we're doing with our own self-improvement, with our own therapy, with our own spiritual practices and healing. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we do that, I keep forgetting to introduce us. I'm Halleck Hannah, and right over here is my co-host and co-creatrix, Carrie Myers. Carrie, smile at the people.
Hello, everyone. It's Carrie Myers, Self-Carrie.
Yeah, we are your friendly neighborhood tarot reader and astrologer, and we're going to be leading you through this awesome discussion and exploration today. Carrie, can you please get us started by talking about what was your inspiration for us tackling this topic?
Yes, I will get into it. Thank you so much for that beautiful, eloquent opening and introduction to this subject, Halleck. Like you know, the woman's a Venus and Gemini. She has a way with words. Yes. And it's it's like, you know, Venus and Gemini, it's beauty with words. And here we go, because this is not easy information, but we will present it to you with so much love. And so thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're going to talk today about trauma. And we're going to talk to it specifically about the experience of Black and brown women with trauma and how you can use astrology, tarot, and all types of mysticism to heal from that. And the reason why this came to me, as so many things do nowadays, just like divine downloads, and I'm just like, oh, we're supposed to talk about that. Oh, we're supposed to talk about that, is because I had gotten introduced recently to my own like through talking with my therapist, the epigenetics of trauma. And basically, you know, like the understanding that Black and brown women have a specific, women in particular, but Black and brown women have a specific connection to it. The epigenetics of trauma or of our mothers' experiences, right? This is for all women because we have wombs and because we come from eggs. We have been inside the women that came before us. Okay. And so having been inside those women, we have inherited their cellular energy. So not even having gone through the experiences that they have gone through and seen it with our own eyes and experienced it with our own bodies, we are still reacting to it in our physical bodies and in our cellular energy. And so this is why you will have someone who will have some PTSD, but didn't actually experience anything like that, you know? And so my therapist, you know, kind of reminded me of this. I knew it, but you know how it is where you're like, I know that, but do I know that? And as an astrologer, I know that, and I teach about the 12th house, which represents the womb, the WOMB in astrology. And any planets that you have in the 12th house, or even the zodiac sign that rules the 12th house, represents your mother's and your mother's lineage experience. So if you have planets in the 12th house, that really represents your mother's experience of life, cellular energy that she passed on to you, just like her water, her air, her food. Okay. Also her experience, which again is one of the reasons why I say protect pregnant women at all costs, because you are literally creating the energy of the next generation by how you protect this woman and protect her experience of becoming a mother. But, we have planets there, and understanding, I am someone who has 3 planets in the 12th house, and this is an unconscious house. So it's stuff that, I don't know, but I'm reacting to all the time, right? As if it was my experience. And so that's why it's important, especially, and that's why I wanted to do this episode, for Black and brown women to get really familiar and understand the trauma, their trauma, but also understand where it came from. Because you don't have to own it as your own. You absolutely can know that it occurred, but you don't have to own it as your own. And astrology and tarot can help you not only disown it, but also it's been given to you for a reason. So not only disown it, but put it in its rightful place and then teach others about it, how to live with it, and how to heal from it.
The silver lining to what is going to be, or what has been, a stormy cloud for some of us up until this point. The cool side of the pillow, the point we're trying to reach, like that place past the Rubicon, right? Like the hardest part past the 5. It is a wonderful place. It is a wonderful place, and it takes time. And I know it sounds so easy to say this as someone that has gone through the fire, who never thought would I ever be able to wake up in the morning, work through my day, engage and interact with the people that are in my life, and go to sleep at night without crippling fear, without just being trapped like in this straitjacket of anxiety, having to live out roles that somebody else gave to me, having to wear this like smiling face when inside I'm kind of hurt and broke, like kind of hurt and broken. There is sunshine, there is warmth, there is friendship, there is love, acceptance of self, a wonderful new journey where you get to know this person that is living without this fear, that has risen up from the ashes, that understands what Carrie just explained very eloquently and very intelligently, which I love. which I love. Even explaining to y'all what epigenetics is and how like we are literally just playing. I used to love the way Lauryn Hill, you remember in that video, Everything is Everything, and it was like a record, and it was like sometimes we are literally like the song, like the groove that we're in isn't even our groove. We just were born into what our moms were, our mom's crazy ass journey.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so I thank you so much for this, because there is hope. You were able to pick up the needle and play another song. I'm telling you, you were able to. You're going to be able to change the tape, because I know some of us got some fucked up, some horrible, horrible movies playing in our heads, some tapes playing. Your tarot and your astrology can help you press stop, help you press pause and change, move from that cassette tape to a CD, and from there to your MP3 to Apple and Spotify now. Okay, now I'm getting all kind of crazy with the analogies. Y'all hear what I'm saying? It's hope.
It's hope. I'm so glad I love that analogy, that visual of like, stop the record. You're on a record and stop it. Your experience of life is not your reaction to your mother's traumas and to her reaction to the things that happened to her. And, let's not like, it's not about like disowning your mother. It's not about disowning your lineage. It's not about saying like, oh, because let me tell you, I spent a long time. I remember at a very young age saying my life is not going to be about my trauma. And I was so willful in that. Okay. But I will say, in being so willful in that, I was not acknowledging it either. And the thing is that, especially when you have trauma that comes from lineage, it's still there. It's under the surface. It's just in the way that you react to things. It's just the way that you see life, you know? And so that you still got to be able to acknowledge it so you can see when it comes up, oh, that's not mine. Why am I doing that? The way that I have interpreted it and that I explain to my clients and my students in astrology is I say it's like carrying a scar that you do not know where the original wound came from. And so if someone were to say, hey, where'd you get that scar? You'd kind of look down and be like, I don't remember. Okay. But you noticed it, right? So clearly it's on me. And that's what this energy is like. And it can be crazy making because you're sitting there going, I don't remember. In practical world, like there are a lot of us Black and brown women who have a lot more privilege, who are sitting, you know, financially, physically, emotionally, psychologically in much better seats than our mothers and our mothers before us, right? And yet still react to the world as if we're in crisis, still react to the world as if someone's trying to take something from us, you know, still react to the world as if we have to have we have to have boundaries up and our dukes up and we're just shadow boxing because we don't even know who the opponent is or if there's one at all, right? And the people around us, our partners, our children, our coworkers are looking at us like, hey, you know, like, what are you fighting by yourself, you know? And they love us and they want us to come on home. Because they're there for a reason. They love us. But there is a point when you have invited ghosts into your relationship and into your house. And it's all about just understanding and being able to say, oh, that's just a ghost. That's not that. I don't got to react to that, you know? So astrology was the thing that introduced me to the fact that I was living with ghosts. And it helped me start to understand how to respectfully acknowledge what they gave me, you know, because it came from a place of love, you know, this kind of extra defenses and things like that. But to also respectfully say, no, thank you, because that's not my life. That's not the life that I lead. And we're in a different day and a different era. And this is a different soul and a different body. And so astrology has helped me do that. And Halaku's going to talk also about how tarot has helped her to be able to do that.
Girl, I love what you were saying about extra defenses. It reminds me of something that I thought I was doing to help my daughter, who's going through a breakup. Like it was, you know, like one of these things you got to go through and you got to learn how to deal with. But I was asking some other younger women, I was like, this is the advice I want to give. What do y'all think? And they were like, ooh, like they made it so clear that this is what you said about extra defenses. Like that's the strategy. Like that was my strategy for future. And like what you need to learn from this is, and blah, 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 and how to emotionally detach. And they were like, yeah, that's your stuff. Like this is not 1972 Southern Mississippi. This is not 19, still trying to take us back, girl. I'm a work in progress. But yeah, like that is not her experience. And this advice that you're giving that may be important at some other time is not where she is right now. So I just wanted to speak to that and say, oh girl, when you said that, I was like, that definitely hit home. And tarot, all I can say is, I'm not going to say like the tarot was the answer to everything in my life. But again, it was the first, and I was a kid that y'all have heard some of these episodes. Y'all know how I grew up and what some of the stuff that I've been working through. Tarot was the first time when I picked that deck up. I was so hopeful and I was so excited because it was just a chance to explore myself and ask myself some questions and to see myself and focus on myself. So I just want to, as we get started in this conversation, like Carrie's already given us some very valuable information. And I can talk a little bit about some tarot archetypes, like how you can use the deck, and even use some different decks. I'm gonna just say as a recommendation right at the top, we ain't got to start with the tarot. Like we can start because I'm really a believer in treating yourself very gently. I don't think it's a great idea when we're in the middle of a crazy ass situation to like, what should I do? Like the deck's not telling you what to do. The deck is helping you reflect on 78 little parts of yourselves. These are 78 points of entry for you to begin to practice treating yourself with loving care. If you have mommy issues, it's a tool that can be used to help you mother yourself. Your astrology, if you have not had a great mother, look for the great mother in the tarot archetypes. There are some beautiful, in the archetypes of goddesses, other energies, likewise with the divine masculine. If there's daddy issues, there are literally whole archetypes that can help you explore that. How do you create? Because I'll be honest, like I lost my father at a very early age, and he was unbelievably violent. But the way like my astrology came into this and how I could work with that kind of energy was my son. Like Leo, like in a lot of traditions, like we think of this, the moon is the mother and the sun is the father. So when I'm doing my little sun gazing in the morning, or I'm doing my meditation looking at the sun, good morning, father, like good morning, father, son. Like I imagine basking in the sun is what it must be like to bask. And that really, my dad, is crazy as he was. He had this way of making me feel like, I always say this, the smartest, prettiest girl in Mississippi. I don't know how he did it, but I believed him. And so that's kind of what I think about when I think about, being Leo, like the lion, father, like, and saying good morning, good evening to my, to the father, like at every sunset. Like those are ways we can use these things and these tools to help us when I want to work on that father structure, discipline, that more traditional, like discipline, order that in a lot of the ways that we live, especially in the patriarchy, comes down. I work with the emperor, right? The goddess, the emperor shows her love through this, just through being the mother, divine creation, mother earth energy that feeds us, right? That helps us regulate through the oceans and like the tide. The emperor shows love through structure, through discipline. I love y'all. I don't want y'all to descend into chaos. So I'm going to give you a hospital system. I'm going to not a medical system. I'm going to give you a legal system of justice. I'm going to give you highways, like international law, like these things that help us function and structure in order. So those are some of the ways, like I like to use those archetypes. Carrie, Actually, I feel like you wanted to follow up and say something, Carrie.
Well, I was going to ask a question. Is the emperor like Capricorn energy?
The emperor is Aries energy, represents spring. I have to find the card. Imagine like kind of a desert kingdom, like in the background, it looks very red and orange, very dry air, and a lot of cards you can see pyramids in the background. The emperor looks like an older man, long gray beard, which gives you an idea of wisdom. He's there fully in armor. He's sitting on his throne in full armor, with a red cloak draped around him. And in the background, we see his throne festooned and emblazoned with the ram. So it's a little bit more about Aries, like about doing, like going into action as opposed to sitting and feminine, like going into the action. What else? He's holding he's holding the scepter and the sphere. And you get the feeling that it's heavy, like that he's operating and ruling, like with all of this stuff, like kind of on him, but to protect, like ready to go to battle, ready to protect, ready to act in order to rule the kingdom. So yeah, it's a little bit more Aries. The correspondence was Aries. So, but I was just going through the deck, looking at all these awesome cards that can represent so many parts of your healing journey, right? Like the Fool. Like once we like Carrie said, to name it, like just acknowledging that we've got trauma, naming it, and are we ready to go on, a journey to renew, to transcend? Yeah, the Fool says absolutely. The Fool is, yeah, let's begin this journey. Are we ready to, because I was thinking too about what are some of the major parts that I think we get wrong as Black and brown women about healing and trauma. And I feel like so much of it is based in, well, you've just got to forgive. No one wants us to go through the process of understanding ourselves, our family history, like our history of trauma, understanding what happened to us. Everybody wants us to just jump to forgive. And I want to say, there's not a single card in the tarot where the message is forgive. It's 78 cards and there's different interpretations of every single one. I truly cannot think of a single one that says, oh, forgive now. And I think in my philosophy and where I'm going with this is, yeah, let's not start there. Let's start with us. Like, so many of us have to forgive ourselves for stuff before we can ever like get to forgiving other people. So I would like to just suggest, if you're beginning that journey, you're on that journey, I'm going to suggest too that I don't know that there's a card in there that says that, but what I would recommend and what I invite you to do with your tarot is to look for yourself. If there were traumas in childhood, there are cards in there to help you reflect. Like if you were working on shadow, Carrie was talking a little bit earlier about shadow. Each one of these cards can help us work through our shadow. But I just want to say, I feel like don't none of them say forgive. I don't, because I think forgiveness is not something that we like, oh, I said these words, now I forgive. To me, forgiveness kind of, when I forgave somebody, it descended on me. It wasn't, I needed to remove myself, and I was like, I'm not even gonna worry about it, not even gonna think about it. And it wasn't until like, I was like, oh, like it was not an active me doing, it kind of descended on me. It kind of happened at the end of me taking amazing care of myself, like learning how to care for myself. And it wasn't the goal, like, please use your cards. The goal is to help you work through, to help you integrate and move on, not to give somebody else the respite of your forgiveness. And Carrie, can I say one other thing before I'm going to toss it right back to you? I'm going to volley it right back to you. Y'all don't have to get started with the tarot. Like I am a believer in these spiritual tools. I do. And one of the reasons I like working with decks is because they are tactile. I'm a little neurospicy myself. And sometimes I even need to stimulate. And so not only for the beautiful archetypes, not only for this wonderful art that you get to dive into, connect to your astrology. Y'all start with an oracle deck. Carrie works with Oracle, like when she does her astrology readings. They are nicer. Like they're just kinder than some of these, images in the tarot. And you deserve the kindness. You deserve the gentleness. Like sometimes the lack of specificity, like, sincerity, loyal. These are nice, big, beautiful, these are nice, big, beautiful topics that are just a little bit more gentle. Look for, and especially if you're going to be one of these girlies that Carrie, I don't know if you're ever like this, as our friendship develops, I'm going to discourage you from doing this. I encourage you to call me before you start like in anger and stress, like, oh my God, let me pick a tarot card. Nah, I don't recommend that you do that, but if you are going to use it as a way to calm down the central nervous system, to regulate your emotions, that's an excellent way to use this really tactile tool, is in giving yourself a way to kind of self-stimulate or self-calm or self-soothe by shuffling the cards, touching the cards, being entertained, like being entertained by the cards.
I like that.
Yeah, if you're gonna come to it out of, I need to calm down, like you pick up the Oracle deck. I pick up this. Y'all know my favorite Oracle deck is the Love Oracle of Eden. It is so wonderful and so calming. Perfect deck to be nice to yourself. And so I'm gonna hand it back over to Carrie.
Well, I love that. You said the Love Oracle of Eden. That's your panic deck. Okay, everybody. Like that's when you're just like, let me, just put them on purse, whenever I need it. I wanted to also say that two of our wonderful guests that we've had so far in the podcast, both Jade Nova and Aunt Carla, both talked about using Oracle, as like one of their kind of main introductories into this. And so Oracle is, just as, and we should get an Oracle person on here too, who could just talk about Oracle and specifically too. But like, this Oracle is a wonderful introduction. And I wanted to talk a little bit too about, how tarot can play into that. We can start with tarot. We can not start with tarot, wherever you want to enter, whatever door you want to enter through, just as long as you're addressing it. The thing about trauma is that I feel the more that you learn about trauma, the less you identify with it. My couples counseling therapist, when I was married, would often say, advise us to say, instead of, I feel this, she would say, no, this is what's present. right? So it's like, oh, I'm emotional or whatever, or I'm upset. It's like, no, upset is what's present, but you don't have to take it on again. Like, right? We don't have to take it on. Also, the more that you look at your trauma or you just look at the inception of it, the history of it, the more you'll start to see the world reflect the opposite back to you, because trauma is cellular energy. So trauma carries an energy, and whatever energy we're putting out is what comes back to us. So it's all about what you're choosing to see. And if you're choosing to see something through the energy of trauma, then that's all you're going to see, right? And so you're not even going to see all the other, things walking around. You're just, again, like ghosts. You're just going to be seeing the ghosts, right? It's just like, and so I wanted to say that about trauma energy signatures, because a lot of times we will say like, oh, I attract narcissists, or we attracted groomers. We've got an issue with like, especially like little Black and brown girls, but just girls and just children in particular, children that have been neglected or who have experienced trauma carry a cellular signature of trauma. And yes, other people who are narcissists, people who are predators, groomers, they pick up on it energetically. You've always heard when, like these interviews with pedophiles and things like that, they knew who to go to. They knew who to stay away from. The children whose parents didn't pick them up for soccer practice, the children whose, they would talk to them and they would find out that their parents weren't hanging out at home or disconnected to, like they knew, okay? They didn't even have to talk to the child and they knew. We've often heard like you can carry trauma in your body in the way that your posture is not straight or whatever it is. We're energetic beings. We pick up on energy. And so with that said, I wanted to talk a little bit, trigger warning for those we are who might be more triggered by this stuff. We are recording this at the time that we've just seen some videos and about Cassie and some of the things that she experienced. For one, like I think it is just re-traumatizing to have to see, I cannot imagine what it's like to see your own trauma being put out there for everybody to comment on and to actually see, not just I will say this, that while I do not believe like seeing trauma over and over again is helpful, it is sadly the evidence that some people need to be able to believe victims. And it's like what has become so normalized is to question the victim first rather than question the person that we're talking about. Remember, I said before, consider the source of everything. When you hear about people who are predators, you very rarely are surprised. I'm just going to say that right now. You very rarely are like, really? That person? Who knew? Like, why? Because you already knew, but it was so normalized that we seem to think that people who get a little bit of coin, people who come up in a certain way, of course they're going to take advantage and act in a certain way. Why have we normalized that because you have gotten a little bit of quote unquote power, you are now going to act a certain way? No, that actually doesn't mean that at all. These things are a choice, and we have normalized that, if you have a little bit of money, if you have a little bit of power or a little bit of influence, you are automatically opened up to being able to become a predator, basically. So that's what first of all, I wanted to talk to say about that. But what I want to talk about with that is that Black and brown women often carry a signature of trauma before. Someone like Cassie, if you know her story, has already experienced things like this, right? So she actually carries an energetic center. And you will find with a lot of stories you hear about any person that has been groomed, any person that has experienced being a predator, you will most likely find a story of their experience or their family's lineage. Chris Brown is another one that comes to mind. Rihanna is another one, that comes to mind. It's like, we don't have to go too far back is what I'm trying to say to be able to see where that came from, where these things came from. Just using Cassie and not trying to go too much into what she's experienced or her perpetrator, who I'm not even going to mention here. Just understanding that these, you might be carrying a signature like this. And so that's why, if nothing, to become familiar with your own signature, with your own energy that you may be putting out, so you can be aware. if I already know that this is in my astrology chart, that I've pulled some tarot cards that indicate this, even if it's not, even if it's just that day. Today, I pulled a card that says that I'm a little bit more susceptible to trauma, or predators. Then I'm gonna be aware of that today, and I'm going to be kinder to myself today, pour into myself today, because that is actually the thing that deflects predators and groomers, is the pouring into yourself. Okay.
Oh, well, on Cassie, the thing the tarot archetype that keeps rearing its head, and I can't help but to see these similarities and these big stories that are being projected, out here, the Drake and Kendrick beef, this thing with Cassie and us seeing, like, because girl, there are people that did not believe that girl even after, the lawsuit and all of these things that, like, that outlined, like, what was done to her, like, just, over and over. And these people getting exposed, these predators being exposed. Seriously, that's why it's so wonderful to be in friendship with and work in this amazing project, giving this information about the tarot and astrology to y'all. Because I'm just like, she said, like, like things were going to be happening in these big ways. And so to me, that's the lens I'm looking at through this. Of course, and also what we saw with Cassie, it let me know too, like, to so many of us, this doesn't, as awful as that was, this is not the worst thing we've ever seen or experienced, especially as Black and brown women in our own. I just know so many women of my age and my acquaintance who come from, where I came from, or that my kind of experience as like a Black woman in the United States. Didn't matter how sedity you were, how much, how successful your folks were, where y'all stood in the little hierarchies of y'all society. These are things that affect all of us. Doesn't matter what the age, your education is, like, violence,
your popularity.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, girl. Like, yeah, these are things that happen to all of us, and scenes that are far too familiar. But Carrie, the tarot archetype that I keep coming back to is the Justice card. Now, this is a little different. This is, this is my favorite deck, and this is my at-home deck. This is the deck y'all see me, when Carrie and I are talking on the podcast. And there's a video element of it that we put up on YouTube, so y'all can kind of see our mugs up close and personal, and you can see the cards up close and personal. So I like to use the African Tazama Tarot for when we're having our conversations, and also a lot of times when I'm pulling for Carrie or reading for Carrie, I like to use this deck. The Justice card. Justice shows a figure in robes sitting on what looks like a throne, because there is something very regal about the idea of justice and balance. It's associated with the astrological sign of Libra. They're holding scales, they're holding a sword, and there's also two pillars on the other side, which I also feel like whenever I see pillars, I love pillars in the tarot, because it immediately lets you know there's two different dimensions to what's going on. There's what's going on here in the mundane, and then there's what's going on, like, either spiritually or cosmically in the background, because pillars represent, like going from one world to another world, like when you pass before. And also, and I love the sword, right? Because in the tarot, the sword represents the element air, what's going on in our mind, in the cerebral space. And the Queen of Swords and the Justice card, I love the way they hold the sword, because to me, it definitely communicates. And when I teach, this is what I teach about these cards and about those symbols. The sword, like, it's a weapon of justice. It represents truth telling. The sword represents what is on either side of the truth and the lie, what is real and false, what is black, what is white, what is the truth, what is what is deception. And to me, it is representative of, don't waste your energy on trying to make justice happen, because the universe craves justice. What is done in the dark truly wants to come to the light. And I feel like that's kind of where we are right now. That's the way it feels right now with Cassie and Drake and these accusations and victims and survivors, because a lot of us are survivors. So many of us are. Oh, and that reminds me of the Strength card, Carrie. Don't let me forget to talk about that. That the universe craves justice, craves balance. And we see the universe bringing stuff that was hidden deep, like Diddy, like they confiscated like 250 cameras from his home, like during the raids. So this is somebody that really tried to make sure they had all their stuff covered up and cleaned up, that had all these insane resources to cover up and to paint over, and to spackle over. And look what's happening. Like, yeah, no, it's cracked right open. Everything that was hidden. And so some other archetypes that kind of help us here, like the sun card. I love the sun card because the sun card means, not only does it mean, the sun shines on this endeavor, happiness, safety, naked baby on a horse, right? The sun card also shows up when something needs the harsh ass disinfectant of sunlight, right? Like the moon card is beautiful, but what do we know about the moon? That sometimes it disguises what is, the time of nightmares and dreamscapes. Everything is painted with beautiful silver light, like in the dark. But when we see the sun card, like, no, maybe something needs some closer investigation. And also I think the strength card is so wonderful and resonant and can be a wonderful symbol that can help you do your journaling, help you get in the right mind space. Again, looking for the card, pulling the card, being inspired by it helps you kind of calm down and regulate your emotion, like your emotions, and having something to do. But I wanted to bring up the strength card because to me, it represents the survivor, like somebody like Carrie. Like I keep saying Carrie. Oh my God, girl, we were supposed to be talking about this. Like we are survivors. That's true. Carrie's like, why are you, Halleck, you acting like we're not both survivors? We are. I want us to start, those of us that have dealt with or dealing with or healing from this trauma, we are not victims. We truly are survivors. And there is no one stronger than someone who is still in a traumatic situation, a violent, emotionally, physically, financially relationship, because they're living in an armed encampment. Like they're surrounded by the enemies at all times, because abusive people, no matter what, doesn't matter what you do, you will always be blamed for it. But the strength card to me represents like who we are as survivors. Like we are so strong. I think we're stronger than most. Like, because we're out here dealing with so much, like in not only the trauma of like being in the crazy situation, but healing from it. Oh, having to work, be a mother, still, like be a sister, a friend, a member of the community. You are strong beyond your knowledge. Because so often what I hear, I've heard clients say, particularly those that are still stuck in insane situations, and I feel so weak. I wasn't brought up like this. I'm like, yeah, no, that's the system and the patriarchy and the trauma telling you you're weak. You're the strongest person here.
You're still here. Yeah.
You're still here, enduring, looking good.
Thank you. Looking moisturized, skin glistening. Yes. Looking good as well.
Yeah, you were the strength card. You're the strongest person here. So what the one thing Carrie and I are not going to do is be like, no, not going to, no, you're not weak at all. You're actually quite strong. You just haven't picked, you haven't quite gotten to the door that you're going to be unlike to escape, because the way out is often through, and you can use your tarot, you can use your astrology to help you take care of yourself, to help you learn about yourself during this. Because that's what so many of us, that's the reason we have to go through the trauma, so we can just break ourselves down the foundation. I think that's what people are talking about when they say, I hit rock bottom, or I hit my, the lowest point, or I was ready to go when this happened. Like sometimes it takes the worst thing happening us for us to just have to come back to ourselves in the most basic way and rescue ourselves. And I got to be honest, I don't mean to sound dramatic, but the tarot is a way I used it to help me heal myself, reflect on myself, and get to know myself.
Girl, is it dramatic to do self-healing, or is it more dramatic to take your healing out, take your stuff out on everybody else? Like, I don't think it's dramatic at all, girl. I was just like, to be perfectly honest, women, and often Black, brown women, are the therapists that everyone else was going to, right? It's like a lot of men were introduced to their own healing through their relationship with a woman, right? And so a lot of the roles that we have played have been, if you talk to a man, to be like, oh yeah, my girlfriend said she read the book Attached, and you're like, now I know about attachment styles, or it didn't come to them through someone else. And so a lot of men are suffering right now with their own healing because they are very used to going to women to do, like the whole idea of like break up with a woman and go find another one because she's going to be your rehab. Okay. It's like, and a lot of women now, especially our young ones, who I'm very proud of, are refusing to be a rehab. And so it's forcing a lot of men, and I would say this is traditional. This is like our, of course, our heterosexual and our idea of cis heterosexual men, is forcing them to have to do self-healing because they no longer have the therapist. So what I would say to that, Halaku, is like you could either act out your trauma on someone else, or you can take it into your own hands and use that strength and use your tarot and use your astrology. That's not dramatic at all. You're not dramatic. Yeah.
Can I also say we know it's powerful getting to know ourselves, reflect with ourselves, have something that we can go to have a conversation with ourselves, to understand a different element of ourselves, like with our astrology. I just feel like it's one of the coolest things you can do is to get into your own astrology. It is your own personal thing, your own, like even the chart of your stars and your planets. It looks like art. Like it's moving, it's evolving, like everything's changing. Your body, this flesh suit, is responding to it. These are powerful tools in our hands. I don't know how powerful they are by themselves, just in books, but in our using them. Oh, and I also recommend have your chart at hand and your cards at hand as you're reading like self-improvement books. Like we're going to be doing an awesome book group and activity with Jay Nova's, like the workbook that comes along with her album. Like we're going to be doing some awesome work with that. Use your cards, use your chart as you're reading these books, doing these workbooks, like doing these exercises. But the point I wanted to make was it's another reason people and systems like, churches and like schools of psychology talk down on astrology or tarot, because they are powerful. People wouldn't be trying to keep us away from them or castigate them or separate us from them or demonize them if they were useless, if they were futile, if there was nothing to be gained from them, if they were useless, if they were just games, if it really was just a card game, or just these are just whatever y'all learned about the planets. The planets are just celestial bodies. They don't affect anything. I'm telling you, people wouldn't be so dedicated to talking ish about it and making us feel silly for being students of it.